Welcome to part 2 of our sermon series, What Are You Waiting For? Today we will think about food. How are you feeling right now? Are you hungry? Are you looking forward to your next meal? Do you like waiting whilst the food is cooked? What food really satisfies you? Personally, I love the smell, taste and texture of freshly baked bread. I think Jesus liked food because there's many accounts of him eating meals in the Bible. He ate meals with friends, meals with powerful people such as religious leaders, meals with people whom society shuns such as prostitutes, and he ate a picnic with thousands of people outside. So what are you waiting for? Do you wait for a world where everyone is satisfied because they have enough to eat? A world in which people have enough food to sustain them and to help them flourish in life. Sadly, we know that there are huge inequalities in access to food in our world. Politics, wars, climate change and limited income result in many people having insufficient food. What are you waiting for? I'm hungry. I'm waiting for food to eat. Hunger is a terrible thing. When I was teaching in primary schools, I observed how it diminished children's ability to think and learn. I observed how it diminished children's ability to grow and gain in physical strength. I taught in areas with high levels of socio-economic deprivation. Children arrived at school very, very hungry. I often ask the children, why haven't you started writing or made a start on your sums? Come on, what are you waiting for? And the reply would be another question. Oh, Mrs. Wickett, when is it break time? I'm hungry. I'm waiting for toast time. I knew for some children, mid-morning toast was their first food intake of the day, and they probably not ate anything since their afternoon snack at school the day before. In some homes, there was simply no food. I changed the curriculum timetable because the children were so hungry. They found it too difficult learning maths or literacy, which required a lot of hard thinking before their morning break. Until they had had something to eat, they simply couldn't focus or learn. And so I moved the hard sums and writing to the afternoon. After school, I assisted another teacher at netball club. I was more of the moral and pastoral support coach, whilst my colleague was the technical sport coach. We played matches against other schools in the town from the more wealthier areas. It always surprised me to see how much taller the other children from the away team were compared to our school team. However, our children, despite looking the physically weaker team, had gritted determination, which helped them win some matches. What are you waiting for? At half time, the children crowded round me. Mrs. Wickett, we're hungry, we're waiting for the snack. And so I provided them with juice and biscuits, which was essential to keep the team going. The children whom I taught waited for food to eat. They knew they could think better, had more energy to win netball matches if they had something inside to nourish them and sustain them. Gandhi is quoted as saying, "The true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members." My experience of witnessing the effects of childhood hunger was over 15 years ago. So how has our society developed? Do we care about the growth and well-being of all our children? Do we as a nation strive to ensure that no child goes to bed hungry, no child goes to school hungry, No child is disadvantaged because they simply do not have enough to eat. Marcus Rashford has importantly highlighted that childhood food poverty still exists, and numbers have risen during this pandemic. Data released by the Food Foundation revealed that 18% of 8 to 17-year-olds, that's 1.4 million children, experienced food insecurity during the summer holidays in 2020. Children ate less to make the food last longer, and parents went without food to feed their children. 850,000 children reported that they visited a food bank during their school holidays, and this was over 60% higher in non-white British ethnic groups. So how, as a society, are we measuring up? Thankfully, there are people who care and campaign because they think childhood hunger is not okay. And I agree. Childhood hunger is never okay. Some people are hungry for change, and it is good that schemes such as Fair Share and food banks are operating. So please, if you are watching and you are hungry, or you know someone who is hungry, contact us at the church office and we will let you have details of local schemes. There is help out there. Please don't suffer in silence. If you long for a different world, then you and I are aligning ourselves to God's kingdom values. God invites all of us to join in the ongoing transformation of the world. God invites us to be change agents so that everyone's food needs are satisfied. Welcome and care for the hungry are insights from the Bible you might want to reflect upon. God welcomes the hungry. This is seen in the stable in the nativity story at Christmas. The shepherds were amongst the poorest in society. If they were poor, it also implied that they were hungry. It warms my heart that the angels came to the shepherds, and the shepherds were the first visitors to see baby Jesus. It says in Luke's Gospel, when the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. God cares for the hungry. This is seen in what Jesus did and said when he grew up to be an adult. Jesus lived in a world where the structures and systems favoured the elite classes and the poor were really hungry. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? People were waiting for life to change. People were waiting for security in knowing that they would have food to eat. Jesus taught his disciples, "Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled." What a strange thing to say. I think if hunger is gnawing away at you, you might not feel at peace with the world. You might feel angry and frustrated because this is not the life you want. But the poor and hungry who followed Jesus found hope in knowing God cared about them and promised them a future in which they would be satisfied. And what would this future vision look like? Jesus told a wonderful story about a great banquet. And you can find that in Luke chapter 14, verses 12 to 24. A man decided to hold a dinner party. The invites were sent out, but on the day the food was ready, the invited guests snubbed him. Their business needs and relationship needs were given a higher priority. The host was well and truly snubbed and angry that his guests didn't turn up. Now he could have thrown away all the food and sulked by himself, but he didn't. The poor, i.e. the hungry, were brought in, and what a feast they had together. This story is a vision of God's kingdom where there is abundant food. There is enough food for everyone and all will be satisfied. Sadly, the self-satisfied people, preoccupied with business and relationships, missed the moment and missed out. But the unsatisfied poor and hungry are instead blessed by the feast, even though they could never repay the host for his unconditional generosity. What are we waiting for? Are we hungry for change? I think this story that Jesus told about the great banquet is a comfort to people who are hungry. I am glad today that systems such as the Fair Share scheme embody some of the unconditional hospitality values through donating unsold supermarket food to community organisations. I think Jesus also told this story to challenge the elites and powerful. Jesus told this story in the leader of the Pharisees' house, who indeed was very powerful. I expect Jesus shocked, irritated and annoyed the leaders. After all, in those days, rich people who gave dinner parties didn't share their food with the poor. But what about us? If we are truly hungry for change, I pray God will guide us to find the time to care, to look beyond our own concerns and imagine what life is like in different households. May God touch our hearts and minds to see that now, especially now in this pandemic, families are struggling and children are hungry. So if we have enough to eat and if we have enough to share, may we share wholeheartedly. So if you are able, please keep donating to our share scheme, which supports local families. Please keep donating to food banks, and please keep campaigning for change. What are you waiting for? Now is the time to love our fellow human beings and give food if they're hungry. Now is the time to campaign for structural change so that everybody has access to affordable food. I asked you at the beginning if you were hungry. If after this time of worship, it's time for you to eat a meal, may God bless the nourishment it gives you. May we never take our food for granted, but always give thanks for it. A prayer. Loving God, we are waiting for the world to change. We don't want children to go hungry today. And if we are hungry, please give us courage to reach out. May we find a warm, caring welcome from organisations donating food. We long for God's kingdom values to be a present reality in which no one goes hungry. May we share generously and actively campaign to put an end to childhood hunger. Amen.